Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating sports analysis. We're going to decode exactly how a championship-winning team adapts when they lose, well, their absolute focal point. For years, the Argentine national soccer team has literally been synonymous with one single name, Lionel Messi. But, as time marches on, this team is being forced into a sudden and honestly necessary tactical evolution. We're going to explore this massive shift, how a team built entirely around a superstar transitions into a team built around a system.
To really understand this shift, we have to look at this totally shocking revelation from the 2024 Copa America final. Picture this. Argentina is facing off against Colombia. It's the 66th minute and disaster strikes. Lionel Messi suffers an ankle sprain and has to be subbed off the pitch. Now, for most teams, losing their captain and arguably the best player in the world, that would be a complete death blow. But listen to this quote from Colombia defender Davinson Sanchez. He actually pointed out that Messi's exit made Argentina stronger. He said the game became more balanced simply because the guys who came off the bench brought way more physical endurance. They didn't necessarily dominate Colombia, but they became incredibly hard to play against. And they ended up grinding out a 1-0 victory. Crazy, right?
So this whole scenario begs a massive, completely counterintuitive question. Can a team actually get better by losing the greatest player of all time? Well, let's dive right into this, because the answer isn't just a simple yes or no. It's really about how a team's fundamental identity shifts from relying on individual, unrepeatable genius to instead relying on an incredibly robust, adaptable system.
Section 1. Life without the legend. To set the stage here, we've got to look at the cold, hard reality of Argentina's current situation following that dramatic Copa America win. Lionel Messi turned 37 in June of 2024. That age, combined with some recent physical setbacks, like that brutal ankle sprain in the final, has sidelined him for some really crucial matches, including recent World Cup qualifiers. So, preparation for life without Messi, it's not just some fun thought experiment anymore, it's literally been put into motion. The team is currently evolving its tactical identity because, frankly, they have absolutely no other choice.
And the emotional and practical weight of this transition, it is absolutely massive. Argentina's head coach, Lionel Scaloni, was actually super candid about this when talking about the absence of both Messi and the recently retired Angel Di Maria. He flat out said, "They are irreplaceable players. It's impossible to replace them. They're unique players." Scaloni isn't out there trying to find the next Messi because he knows that's just a fool's errand. The creative genius is gone, and that creates a completely foreign challenge for the squad.
So, what's the fix? Well, Scaloni's overarching solution is actually brilliant. During Messi's absences over the past year, Scaloni has really emphasized that Argentina's true strength doesn't actually hinge on a single player anymore. Instead, it relies on a set tactical identity. The core philosophy right now is a style of play that simply doesn't change based on who is wearing the jersey that day. This whole system revolves around a versatile, highly energetic, pressing midfield, something Scaloni has been carefully building from the ground up since he took over the team back in 2018.
Section 2. The tactical pivot. Let's break down the specific X's and O's of this new reality, because the contrast is wild. With Messi on the pitch, Argentina usually plays a very narrow game. You know the drill. They control possession, they dictate the tempo straight down the middle of the field, and they let Messi orchestrate the whole thing. But without him, they become far more expansive. They prioritize width to really exploit the opposition's flanks. They focus on super fast transitions and directness to get into the final third as quickly as possible. The sheer absence of Messi essentially forces the team to fundamentally stretch the entire field.
Section 3. Stepping up. Key players. Without a single focal point, the system itself kind of becomes the invisible playmaker. But obviously, a system needs actual humans to execute it. Let's look at how these tactical responsibilities have been completely redistributed across the midfield to replace a single genius with a total collective effort. First up, Nicolas Gonzalez. He's effectively taken Di Maria's place on the wing, using his serious pace and physicality to stretch the field, really leaning into that new width strategy we just talked about. Next, you've got Alexis McAllister stepping up as the new creative engine. Against Chile, it was McAllister who linked up the play and scored the crucial goal that sealed a 3-0 victory. And then, of course, there's Rodrigo de Paul. He's roaming freely, taking up way more advanced positions, pressing relentlessly, and initiating counterattacks. He is literally moving into the exact spaces traditionally occupied by Messi.
But hey, it's definitely not just the midfielders putting in the extra sweat. A massive extra workload is being dumped on the forwards too. Without Messi's central playmaking magic, center forwards like Julian Alvarez and Lautaro Martínez are being asked to do so much more. Alvarez often has to drop way back into the midfield to function as what we call a false nine, basically a striker who drops deep to help create plays rather than just hanging out up top waiting for the ball. Both of these forwards are now tasked with relentless, high-energy pressing, and they're covering significantly more ground than they ever would if Messi were out there orchestrating.
Section 4. The growing pains. Now, while this system is definitely robust, adapting to it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing. We can actually see the real inconsistency of this new approach by looking at the mixed results from their September World Cup qualifiers. Against Chile, the adaptation totally worked. They widened the pitch in the second half, pressed higher up, and Mac Allister's creativity sparked that definitive 3-0 win. But then against Colombia? Yeah, totally different story. All that extra workload on the forwards we literally just talked about, it resulted in a much less cohesive attacking performance. Colombia absolutely stifled their forward play, and despite creating some overloads, bunching up players to temporarily outnumber the defense on the wings, Argentina ended up wasting crucial chances and ultimately walked away with a loss.
The glaring issue here is a missing clinical touch. While players like Rodrigo de Paul have put in these tireless, expansive shifts, there is a very clear lack of creativity in the final third of the pitch. For instance, think about set-piece deliveries. Those were an absolute specialty of Messi's, right? Well, they failed to create anywhere near the same threat when de Paul was tasked with taking them. Against Colombia, Argentina initiated several rapid counterattacks, but they just couldn't capitalize. Basically, they were missing that razor-sharp cutting edge that Messi usually provides on a silver platter.
And if you think you can just hand someone else the keys to the kingdom and call it a day, just look at Paulo Dybala. He was literally handed Messi's iconic number 10 shirt during the September qualifiers. And while Dybala absolutely has world-class technical ability, the immense expectations have been a super heavy burden to carry. He's been limited by injuries and has honestly delivered pretty inconsistent overall contributions on the international stage recently. It just goes to prove that simply handing over the number 10 shirt doesn't magically replicate the magic of the guy who wore it before.
Section 5. The Post-Messi Era. So, this brings us to the ultimate test of how Argentina balances its historic identity with this completely necessary systematic evolution. Right now, they do remain atop the CONMEBOL qualifying table. Scaloni's sheer adaptability, controlling games, pressing high, and utilizing all that new attacking width is definitely keeping them highly competitive. But here's the catch. The absolute vital element for their long-term survival is finding consistency in that final third. They have to develop players like Mac Allister, de Paul, and Dybala into decisive, cold-blooded leaders who can reliably finish chances when the game is quite literally on the line.
All of this leaves us with one final lingering thought for today's explainer. We've seen how width, speed, and collective endurance can make a team incredibly hard to beat. But picture this. It's a World Cup final. You're tied in the 89th minute, and you need an absolute miracle. Can a perfect system ever truly replace a singular genius? It's a fascinating question, and for sure, it's one we are all going to watch unfold in the years to come.